Welcome back to the Short Movie Channel. The movie begins in Dr. Robert's house, where we see a girl named Vera, locked alone in a room. She requests food over the phone, and the servants bring it to her without opening the door. Later, we see Vera searching for something to wear, only to find a single usable dress in the closet, which she reluctantly puts on. We then shift to Dr. Robert, one of the world's top plastic surgeons, as he delivers a lecture about cosmetic procedures for burn victims. He explains to the students that the best solution for burns and skin deformities is to replace damaged skin with new skin. He informs them that transferring skin from one person to another is difficult, but he's working on developing synthetic skin that mimics natural human skin. He also tells them that his experiments are conducted on corpses, whose skin he genetically modifies to make it transferable, resistant to deformities, and unaffected by aging. He announces that his new invention is almost complete and will be showcased soon, adding that this procedure has only been attempted 5 times, all under his supervision. Next, we're taken to Dr. Robert's lab, where he's conducting some experiments. We learn that he has kidnapped Vera to use her in his experiments, observing her through cameras installed in her room. When he enters her room at one point, he finds that she has attempted suicide, so he brings her to his lab, treats her, and saves her life. He then resumes his tests and begins the practical experiment by applying the synthetic skin to Vera's face. He tells her that this skin is incredibly strong and resistant to deformities, and attempts to burn it, discovering that it remains unaffected. Later, Robert attends a meeting with some of the world's top plastic surgeons, where he presents his findings, explaining that he's developed a method to make skin extremely strong and resistant to burns and injuries. He names his invention Jail. We eventually learn that his work was inspired by the death of his wife, who burned to death in a car accident, which motivated him to pursue these experiments to protect others from a similar fate, as he deeply loved her and wanted to preserve her memory. After the meeting, a colleague of Dr. Robert approaches him and asks how he managed to make the skin so strong that it can resist burns, while human skin is usually fragile. Dr. Robert explains that he combined human skin with genetically modified pig skin, as pig skin is much stronger and can withstand things that human skin cannot. When his colleague objects, saying these procedures are unethical and forbidden, Dr. Robert responds that he's aware of this but felt compelled to carry out the experiments to preserve his wife's memory. Later on, but his colleague becomes angry and tells him that he will file a complaint against him if he continues with these experiments, saying what he's doing is a crime. Robert returns home to sit with Vera, and she tells him she wants to live a normal life and leave the room, but he refuses and leaves her alone. The next day, Dr. Robert is having breakfast at home when Maria, the one responsible for managing the household, approaches him. She tells him that everyone knows his wife has died and that the experiments he's conducting, to place his late wife's face onto Vera's face, will lead to his imprisonment. She explains that Vera will look exactly like his deceased wife, and everyone is aware of his experiments, which will serve as evidence against him. She asks him what the goal of these experiments is. Are they meant to serve humanity, or is it just a way to see his wife again, even if it's her face on another woman's body? She questions whether he will release Vera after completing the experiments, or if he intends to keep her or if her fate will end in death, as his wife's did. Dr. Robert doesn't know how to respond, so he leaves the room. Maria decides to dismiss all the household staff so that no one will discover the truth. After a while, a man dressed in strange clothes arrives and knocks on the villa's door. Maria answers, and we learn that it's her son. He asks her to let him in so he can spend some time with her, as he hasn't seen her in a long time, but she refuses to open the door, worried he might find out what's happening in the house. He insists on staying, so she agrees, opens the door, and offers him some food. While he's eating, Maria sees on TV that her son Zika is wanted by the police for robbing a jewelry store, with footage showing him in the act. Zika then explains to his mother what happened and asks her to let him stay in the house until things calm down so he can escape from the city. He also asks her to convince Dr. Robert to perform plastic surgery on him to change his appearance, so he won't be recognized, but she refuses because of what Zika did to Robert in the past. She tells him to leave the house, but Zika ignores her and starts wandering around. He notices the surveillance cameras and sees Vera in her room, thinking she is Gal, Robert's wife. When he asks his mother who she is, she points a gun at him, threatening to kill him if he doesn't leave, but he attacks her, takes the gun, and ties her up. Realizing that Vera might be in danger, Zika takes the room keys from his mother and starts searching for her throughout the house until he finds her. When he opens the door, he tries to assault her, but Vera fights him off and tries to escape. However, he captures her and assaults her, revealing that he's doing this because Vera resembles his old girlfriend, who was also Robert's wife. At that moment, Dr. Robert arrives home, finds Maria tied up, and realizes someone is in Vera's room. He rushes upstairs, finds Zika attacking Vera, and shoots him. Later, we see Maria sitting with Vera, who asks her why Zika acted that way. Maria explains that Zika is Robert's half-brother, and Robert's mother was infertile, so Robert's father married her and had Zika with her, raising Robert alongside Zika. She tells Vera that Zika got involved in drug dealing a long time ago, which is why he left her and lived on his own. When Robert grew up, he got married and had a daughter. Maria also shares that, after a long time, the police attempted to arrest Zika due to his involvement in drug trafficking, and he came to her, asking to stay with her to avoid getting caught, so he stayed with her in the house for a while. At that time, Gal meets Zika and falls in love with him, deciding to leave Robert and run away with Zika. After a love affair, Zika and Gal run away together, but while traveling, they have a car accident. The car explodes, and Zika manages to escape, leaving Gal alone inside. Robert arrives just in time, pulls Gal from the car, but her body is severely burned. He tries to treat her burns, and due to the severe injuries his wife suffers, Robert decides to break all the mirrors in the house and turn off all the lights so she won't see what she looks like after her body has been disfigured. Robert hardly ever leaves his lab, constantly trying to find a cure for his wife's condition by any means. One day, Gal tries to open the window to watch her daughter singing in the garden after hearing her voice. As she reaches the window and tries to open it, light reflects off the glass, and Gal catches a glimpse of her face, now horribly disfigured. Shocked and unable to handle it, she throws herself out of the window, ending her life in front of her daughter, Norma. Norma, too, can't bear the trauma and takes her own life out of grief for her mother. While talking, Robert returns home, and we learn that he took Zika's body to bury it. Later, when he enters his room and falls asleep, he dreams of his daughter Norma back when they were at a party together, before she died. Every time he looked at her at the party, she seemed happy, but the last time he looked, she was gone. He steps outside to look for her but finds nothing. Suddenly, he hears the sound of a motorcycle and sees a young man speeding away from the area, but he continues searching for his daughter until he finds her unconscious next to a tree. Robert tries to revive her, and when she wakes up, she has a nervous breakdown and starts screaming. Robert tries to calm her down. Later, we see a young man named Vincent, who works at a clothing store with his mother and her assistant. He tells the assistant that he made a dress that would look beautiful on her, but she refuses to wear it. They argue briefly, and then Vincent heads out to attend a party where Norma is also present. He notices Norma, feeling very attracted to her, and she notices his attention, becoming interested in him as well. Vincent approaches Norma and asks her to go for a walk with him. They leave the party and talk, but then Norma hears the song she was singing when her mother took her life after seeing her disfigured face. This triggers a breakdown in Norma, and she starts screaming. Vincent tries to calm her down but fails, panics, and ends up hitting her until she loses consciousness. He then leaves her and walks away. Later, Vincent is at work with his mother at the store and tells her he's going out for dinner. When he leaves, a car approaches him, hitting him. A person steps out, ties him up, and takes him away. Vincent remains missing for a long time, and his mother goes to the police to follow up on the report she filed about her missing son, but they cannot find any leads or clues as to his whereabouts. The officer tells his mother that his motorcycle was found in the ocean, suggesting that he may have drowned as well, so they close the case due to lack of evidence. Meanwhile, Norma has been admitted to a psychiatric hospital because her condition hasn't improved. She remains terrified and anxious whenever anyone comes near her. After a while, we learn that Norma died in the hospital. When Robert finds out what happened to his daughter, he decides to take revenge. We discover that he kidnapped Vincent, placed him in his lab, and sedated him. He tells his fellow doctors that a young man named Vincent requested a gender reassignment surgery to become a woman, and that he wanted the procedure to be conducted in complete secrecy. Robert decides to punish Vincent by turning him into a woman, but not all at once. At first, he changes his genitalia. When Vincent wakes up, Robert informs him that he's been transformed into a woman and that he'll complete the rest of the procedure later. Vincent looks at himself in the mirror and realizes that he's actually started to change, left feeling confused as to why he was kidnapped and why all of this is happening to him. Over time, Robert meets Vincent again after finishing a large part of the transformation and tells him that he is the father of Norma, the girl who died because of him when he tried to assault her. Robert informs him that he'll finish the surgery and turn him fully into a woman to exact his revenge, and he begins to finish the operation. We see him preparing Vincent's body, administering feminine hormones. Additionally, we find out that Robert has been assaulting Vincent as part of his revenge for what he did to his daughter. Vincent attempts to end his life multiple times, but each time, Robert saves him and performs cosmetic surgery on him to keep him looking attractive. As time passes, Robert removes Vincent's mask, revealing that he now resembles a woman. He buys him dresses, makes him watch yoga programs to follow along, and keeps him in a separate room since the operation. We learn that Robert has turned him into a replica of his late wife because he loved her deeply. After numerous desperate attempts to escape or end his life, Vincent decides to accept his new life as a woman and begins to adapt to the situation he's living in. Following Zeke's attempt to assault Vera, Robert decides to let him leave the room and gives him more freedom. Vera agrees to go out with Maria, promising Robert she won't try to escape. Vera goes out with Maria to shop for some things, and afterward she returns to the house, realizing she can't escape from Robert, and wants to gain his trust. Later, she goes down to Robert's office and searches through it until she finds a newspaper with her picture listed among the missing people from before Robert turned her into a woman. She decides to take action, finds a gun in his desk drawer, and takes it. Robert is waiting for her in the room, and when she opens the door, she raises the gun at him and shoots him. When Maria hears the gunshot, she grabs a gun and heads upstairs to see what's going on. Vera hides under the bed, and when Maria enters the room, Vera shoots and kills her, then quickly runs out of the house, trying to escape. She heads to her mother's shop, and when she arrives, she goes straight inside. Her mother is working in the shop with her assistant, and when they see her, no one recognizes her. The assistant approaches her, asking if she needs help, but Vera tells her she's the daughter of the shop's owner. The assistant, Christine, doesn't believe her, so Vera begins reminding her of things they used to talk about and tells her everything that happened between them to prove her identity. At that moment, Vera's mother approaches and asks, "Who are you?" She replies, "I'm your daughter." The film ends on this scene, and if you liked it, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel.